Oh, wait. Are we asking for questions? Categories?
Yeah, can you put this at the top also, Cado?
Oh, shit. Attention, Waypoint gamers.
Well, no, I thought about doing it at the top, but then we were going to talk about the Activision stuff, and it's like, let's ask for some goofy Game of the Year questions at the top. Also, what's going on with that potential strike at Activision-Blizzard? We're doing only 2 Game of the Year podcasts. One's going to be a holiday mailbag, so if you want to write in just holiday questions, you want to do a fresh batch of questions that's not just all the stuff that we're working through, that we haven't gotten to because we've been better about doing mailbag stuff lately. But if you want to send in some new, questions, do that to gamingadvice.com. But the other request is we are going to do a Game of the Year pod where we talk about like our favorite Game of the Year and I don't know, maybe shout out some other stuff that we liked. The other half of that is my thought was, what if the listeners, and also readers, because I'll write it in the newsletter today, you should come up with categories for us to fill. And so we need to get those in. I think we're going to record that next Wednesday. That's tentatively when we've set the recording. And we will go through those so people have some time to think about them, although I'll probably keep some categories a surprise to the recorders. But yeah, give us categories to fill. Those can be serious, they can be silly, but if you write those in for Game of the Year, put that in the title to gamingadvice.com for categories for us to think about the year that was.
Also, gamingadvice.com. People send things to waypointadvice.com and it hits somewhere, but
it's understandable because if you just search for an email to send it to, like that's the one we do for freelance pitches. So, if it ends up there, I get it and Rob gets that email. So it won't get lost, but it is easier if you send it to gamingadvice.com.
It also hits my email, but they get lost. They're in there somewhere. I should set up a filter. Shit.
Anyway, back to the outro. Oh, I set up the best filters the other day, but anyway, that's not.
Wait, is this the beginning of the podcast or the end of the podcast?
Both?
I miss you.
What's good, Internet? It's December 10th, and you are listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 447. I'm your host, Rob Zachney, and today I'm joined by Patrick Klepek.
Hey.
Our producer, Ricardo Contreras.
Yo.
And I think we're eagerly awaiting the Game Awards. I know I've got plans to stay up late all night. Just which of the games that we didn't nominate for any of these categories will end up taking the awards home. I think it was really indicative of what a little island we're on. That of like all the things we nominated for the different categories, almost none of our picks got through.
Did anything? Anything?
Not even one? Not even a one?
Well, we liked some weird stuff though.
Yeah,
that's
true.
We do.
But like, I'm really surprised that there wasn't more love for Inscription out there. Is what
it came too late. That's one of those games that they released in October. Like it almost came out around. I don't know exactly when we had to submit that stuff, and Inscription came out.
Inscription came out on October 19th, an important date because of the things that happened in that game.
Correct. I was looking through the list of games.
But you know what? It allows us to enjoy, like, we don't have a dog in this fight. All our dogs are dead. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I especially given like the weird comments that Keighly made and then tried to walk back about Activision. I don't blame people if you don't want to watch the show. I'm kind of there for the car crash. And then, occasionally you get, was it last year or the year before when, you get the Disco Elysium folks up there being like, "Yo, Marks!" Like, that's dope. Like, I'm here for that. I'm crossing my fingers. There are folks out there that'll use their platform to, shout out what's happening over at Activision. Like, go contribute to their $1 million strike drive. I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe. And then I don't know. And then there'll be like an Alan Wake 2 trailer. Like that would be all right.
Both of those things would be awesome, actually. If we caused an explosion of strike fundraising, and
we should have had if we had more forethought into what we do for a living, we would have like made a bingo card. But like purposely making a bingo card that will never fill up.
Yeah.
Like here are all the things that could happen tonight. The game
that could happen that will absolutely not happen.
That would have been good. Let's put that away for next year to not do, but I'll then say it would have been funny.
Name which categories they will announce during commercial breaks. And just you'll never see any human involved with any of those picks.
Fuck.
So we should talk a little bit about the Activision situation.
Yes.
Like, obviously there was the Game Awards connection to it, which is basically that, as often happens around the Game Awards, Keighly and the show end up like trying to navigate this weird space where this is entirely an event underwritten by major players in the industry. Yeah,
it's E3 that uses the notion of an award show to launder a bunch of like marketing trailers. And you know, that is it was true when it started on Spike TV and remains true even as Keighly went independent. I think the show as a production has gotten better. You know what I mean? Like it is a more watchable experience. You know, I mean, still that Joel McHale one, an all-timer. Do you want to watch Joel McHale just make fun of Jeff Keighly for 3 hours? Go back and watch that. It was one of the most. I also believe that's where No Man's Sky was.
I did,
for
man. I also remember when they were trying to make Joel McHale care about Tress FX, the NVIDIA hair technology, and he just started mocking like the side-by-side comparisons. He was like, "Yeah, those characters look like shit, but wow."
That hair.
Also, Tress FX never looked that like hair effects.
That never really took off. I always remember that being the. Like Tress FX came out around the time that my PC was like could run like most things pretty well, and every time a new game came out, it was like, hey, just turn that off. Like you'll gain like 15 frames. Like just turn that off.
Huge performance hit to recreate. Even
if you had the card that supported it, there was like, hey, in theory, this should be a no performance hit because you're, you know, I had a 1080, right? Like I was like, I'm good to go. I should be able to play the new Tomb Raider just fine. It was like, no, actually, if you want to hit 60, I can turn that off.
Well, and then Tress FX always gave hair the quality of like tinsel being draped over a Christmas tree. It never looked like, like it was like, what if hair had the material properties of tinsel? Is basically how it works.
Well, because it needed to flow. Like I feel like that was like also like early like capes and dresses as they figured out the animations on that to make it look quote unquote more realistic. It was like, well, now it just feels like they're blowing in wind to make to remind you. They're like, look, it moves. So actually like the hair, like your game performed better and the hair looked more naturalistic.
Yeah, you turn on Tress FX and you activate like shampoo commercial mode effectively, where like every single sequence is unfolding with like a fan off screen and a glam and glam lighting up above. But so the reason this
so that sets up like what has been I don't know, like act 3 or 4 of this ongoing you know, conversation and like sort of like divulging of issues within Activision-Blizzard as a company, which obviously starts earlier in the year with all sorts of different reporting, you know, sort of uncovering and exposing various sort of like, Mina's upset. Like she understands. And that has sort of taken, Rob is excusing himself to go take care of Mina. We're talking about something very serious. Don't you? I put up the serious sign. Yeah. Like he needs like a red sign for like serious talk is happening on the podcast, Mina. And you know, you can go back and listen to previous podcasts where we've kind of picked up the beats along the way, and like the Keighly comments, which sort of set everyone off last Friday, then carry into this week in which, you know, Activision, you know, a company looking for a W, in which it just wants to give itself
they could look harder.
They could. Essentially, Activision laid off roughly a third of Raven Software's QA team. Raven Software, a company that we recently highlighted on a stream because they used to be a studio that did all sorts of interesting original license work. I have fond memories of Heretic, Hexen, their Jedi Knight games
came up through there. Didn't they make some interesting Wolfenstein stuff?
They made the interesting modern Wolfenstein game before Machine Games got their hands on it. I didn't. It was like a pseudo open world. And then Raven became as Call of Duty swept through Activision-Blizzard, the Activision side specifically, a support studio where they were making maps for Call of Duty sequels on an annualized basis. And then with the launch of Warzone, they are like one of the main support, one of the primary drivers of new content into that. And they also have a fairly extensive QA team that works, go read Motherboard, in which Lorenzo has done an enormous amount of reporting about the rampant cheating and their efforts to knock that stuff down, in which, cheating is just fundamentally exponentially way harder to deal with in free-to-play due to the accessibility of the games. All that said, Activision lays off a third of their QA team. My understanding, if I remember, this is like a little fuzzy because it's been, almost a week now since some of this broke. Like people had moved to Madison, Wisconsin. Shout outs to one of the few, there's more of them these days than there were before, but like one of the few, Raven for a long time was like, you can make video games in the Midwest. It's possible. As they're located in a pretty cool Wisconsin city. And like some people were promoted, but a third of their QA was just straight up, I guess, depending on if you want to adopt Activision's line, their contracts weren't renewed, which is basically just a layoff or a firing. And this comes if you've been on Instagram, if you've been anywhere on the internet. Boy, you've seen a lot of advertisements for a big new map coming to Call of Duty Warzone. And so the fact that these folks were putting in this sort of redundancy, as corporate speak often puts it, at a time when the company is being criticized for how it treats workers, how it's handled, how its workers have been treated. It doesn't take much to set off like what otherwise would just be a round of bad headlines into another firestorm for the company. And so as a result, a bunch of folks at Raven Software who are not in the QA department walked out in solidarity with the QA team that had their contracts not picked up, or that they weren't promoted, so they become full-time employees. This then has continued into the most recent development in the past 24 hours. So when you listen to this, there's now a GoFundMe page that describes itself as a strike fund by the Activision-Blizzard Workers Alliance. They're trying to raise $1 million. As of right now, it's $133,476 with a 10,000 donation from. I've been tracking the top donations because I think there's probably like some interesting stories in there for the people who are putting in the most. $10,000 from Rowan Rowden. Who are you? Co-founder of Dual Wield Studio. I don't know who that is, but they just submitted $10,000 for this. This fund, it is. It was sort of unclear when it launched. What is this for? Obviously, the response from the people who work at Activision-Blizzard who were either directly affected or indirectly or in solidarity with folks who were affected by what's happened to that company in the past, present, and trying to make it better for the future. They've been awkwardly trying to figure out like doing walkouts and organizing and having a relationship with the press. Like all of this is kind of happening in real time. And so I think this morning, as we were recording, when this went out, there was some confusion over like, is this a general strike pool? Is this a strike pool that is meant for the QA workers who are walking out at Raven? Jason Schreier at Bloomberg has since clarified that it seems like this is like at least primarily at the time meant for folks who are striking in solidarity with the Raven Software QA folks. And so they're, I don't know if they're going to hit 1 million, but they're well on their way in one day towards amassing quite a bit of money to then use to cover folks who, it is common for companies to retaliate if workers go on a voluntary strike. to essentially like dock their wages, dock their pay as a result, especially if you've like run out of
as
Wirecutter
employees.
Yes, go look at the New York Times being sued by being sued as a result of how they've treated Wirecutter, their acquired sales tech website. It's just kind of where we stand now. Is apparently unionization cards have been handed out at Raven. What that means exactly is unclear. This is happening at the same time that there are 3 Starbucks locations in New York, right? Are one voted in favor of unionization. Do we have the ruling on the third one? One voted yes, and one voted no.
Ballots are being challenged as last so
it's close
reported, but
that means it's close,
it wasn't that close. It was like 15-7, but a bunch of ballots are just being challenged. So it sounds like it went through, and like there's a Hail Mary underway.
Okay, at the very least, one voted yes. Like that is the fact that we sort of like, and I guess this is to open up to the bigger picture conversation. Like, I don't know where this leads. Do I think this leads to Activision-Blizzard as a company unionizing? Probably not. Do I think that like all Starbucks employees are suddenly going to be like in a union? Probably not. That said, like relative to where we have been, a strike fund, like in the pursuit of giving people financial cover to try and take steps that they cannot do because they don't have a union, and then people at places like actually the correlation, like the parallel between QA and overlooked, underserved, overworked, constantly blamed for the problems of a video game employee, and then also like baristas. Like there's a lot of parallels between like how society treats those two jobs, and the fact that we are like sitting in a moment in which I don't know what the end game is, but the fact there is movement towards empowering those people and recognizing those people, I take as highly encouraging signs, even if I don't know where the material gains are of that tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now.
It's also probably worth mentioning that, like, this is all in the context of Activision Blizzard's, like, scandals, for one, but then also, like, this week we heard further stories of just, like, sort of the more routine, like, workplace discrimination against women at the Blizzard offices.
Right, there was the whole Lisa Bloom, the women's victim advocate who has come under criticism in the past for consulting with Harvey Weinstein around the time that he was started to be, dragged through the shit for all the shit that he has done over the years. But like she was out in front with someone who had said they'd been harassed in front, and they did this press conference in front of the Activision Blizzard offices. And as a result of that, then there were a bunch of stories. I can't remember. I think what you're alluding to, Rob, is like stories like women having their breast milk stolen out of refrigerators at Activision
to make
Blizzard.
Room for beer.
To make room for beer.
Yeah,
women
the fact that they were never given adequate pumping rooms, that they were running extension cables into because they had no seats where they could pump, so they would
or
just sit
kicked
on the
out in
floor.
favor of overworked development teams that needed to take a nap.
Right,
which is like shitty on like throwing so many layers to that shit onion of like a developer who is overworked to the point of having to take a nap, kicking out a woman who is there breastfeeding is just like you just want to scream.
I think so like it's an interesting context this is all taking place in, where you have sort of a very clear inciting or precipitating event in Madison with a bunch of QA workers being let go without warning. But it's all in this context of this understanding that there's been lots of different rules for different people depending on who and where you are within Activision Blizzard. And a lot of people who are on the lower rungs of these various ladders just being given an enormous amount of shitty treatment, be that financial, be that interpersonal, be that just like general workplace cultural. So it does sort of seem like, when you sort of alluded to Activision Blizzard could use a dub, they're just taking L's everywhere in public. It's one of those things where now that people are like talking about, hey, once you start talking about like, hey, this kind of seemed fucked up, but like how fucked up was it? every single as every Activision studio seems to be going through this process of like examining their current conditions and conditions for the past several years. Does not seem like there's little happy stories being told.
No, and I think what you're seeing is as there hasn't, there have been, whispers and stories of departments within Activision, trying to clamp down on people talking, but largely it seems like people have avoided, sort of like there have not been like really like public firings for people like telling stories about what's happened to them. That's just emboldening people. Like every time the company steps in it and makes just, the worst possible turn, which is in step with what they've done before. Again, this is a company that like famously laid off a bunch of people while proclaiming to have their best quarter ever. That is just like the company that this is. So none of this is surprising. I think what is probably surprising to them is the reaction. They're used to going through the cycle of we'll do something shitty and evil. A place like Waypoint or Kotaku will drag us. There'll be a bunch of social media stuff, and then we just move on. Mm-hmm. And what's fascinating here is that the backlash or the stories that are coming out afterwards are just, I don't know, it's fueling a fire longer, it's more sustained. Again, I don't know where that lands, and where that like materially changes people's conditions, but it feels different, and like these milestones feel bigger. That it does seem inevitable that we're headed towards something. I just don't know. I don't know what that something is, because frequently you don't understand what those somethings are, and until you have the benefit of hindsight. Yeah,
it's a story that we'll definitely be keeping an eye on. I think the other important thing to remember is that this is kind of just a cross-industry story right now. Like, it's like right now Activision is dominating the headlines, right? But it is not like Ubisoft ever actually did a convincing house cleaning.
No. When it comes even just to like in society, like during COVID, like what they're calling like the Great Resignation, right? In which people like there is so much, when you go down the street and you see that like every fast food place needs workers, like that isn't just those places, like it's everywhere. Like people are just are leaving their jobs, finding new jobs, finding better jobs, finding ones that are more accommodating and make them happier. And so I think we are at this massive inflection point, whose like the lessons of the consequences, the ramifications are like stuff we just won't know for, months, years from now, but it all feels like it's part of the same stew.
The distinction I draw, though, is that I think a lot of times there's been this attitude of, well, if you don't like conditions here, you can leave. You can go find a better job. And that is the way that workers can exercise their power. I think one of the like fair arguments to make is that workers shouldn't have to, right? Like if you like your job at Blizzard, for instance, you like the games you are making, you like the team you are with.
You maybe came here because this was your fucking dream, was like, I love World of Warcraft. Now I'm working on World of Warcraft. Like, why should you have to go somewhere else because you're being sexually harassed? Maybe stop that part.
Right. Or like, you shouldn't, or you want to make progress in the industry. Well, go find a job not at Raven and not in Madison, Wisconsin. Well, again, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to overturn your life to to get these small concessions. And so I think like when I look at some of these things happening across the industry, it feels like there's also just been a lot of like building up pressure just in terms of historically, I think that it was easy to tell people the QA was your way in, right? Like QA is where you start. That's the mailroom of the games industry.
Yeah.
Using the old corporate analogy. And many were called, but few will be chosen. But some of you will make it out of QA into like
long hours, low pay, but your foot's in the door.
Right.
You meet people.
Right. And then you can move on to real game dev jobs, like higher up. Never mind the fact that QA is like critical to make any of the others function. But you can then get like real gigs if you prove yourself. And maybe someday you might even have like some modicum of like creative control over some part of a game.
It's funny you say that, because the one of the other things that gets bandied about is like, you're getting paid to play games when you're in QA. It's just like, which is it? Is it I'm getting a foot in the door, or is this where I'm stopping because it's hilarious, a good gig?
Like,
quote unquote.
Playing an unoptimized in progress game is like one of the least fun things. Like, shit, man.
It's like the flip of our jobs, where it's like people think that we play video games all day. Nope, do that at night when your family's asleep.
Yeah,
right, and do admin tasks all day. And then QA, it's like, yeah, here you do play games all day, but what if they sucked shit and you had to like shoot a gun into a wall for 3 hours?
It's like testing cars with square wheels in a lot of ways, right? Where it's like, when we put these on the road, the wheels will be round, but you on the other hand,
you got to deal with those square wheels for a little while. And actually,
and what you're testing is the fucking turning radius, not the fucking wheels themselves. Right. Like you're testing something different, but there's something else that's broken.
And can you let us know? We think we've put in we've put in those circle wheels, but we're not sure if they're there yet. Can you check and see if the square ones are still there?
But so this was always the deal. Was like, well, here's a low percentage, but at least plausible pipeline to the work you came here to do, the stuff you wanted to be doing. I think one of the other things is just as industry consolidation happens, the number of like ladders that exist that do take you to a place that'll be creatively satisfying are drastically diminished. If you joined Raven 20 years ago, there is a chance, there's a path to maybe being a lead on your own game, something that you sort of created and like feel passionately about with your co-creators. Now you're just servicing Warzone. And like that's not to say that that nobody could find that job satisfying, or it's not, good and important work for someone who wants to do it. But it's a different deal, right? Because now it's very explicit that like, no, you just exist to keep this like gushing oil well of money fountaining out of your studios, and then the gains for that are largely being absorbed by an investor and management class that is not like giving you any of those gains, and is also accused in many places of misconduct. So like I think this is the other part of this is, if you look back at stories across the games industry, it's always sucked in some really familiar ways. And that doesn't make it okay that it is now or that it did then. But I think one of the things that's different is now the suck everyone's okay, I think, with this idea that there's some jobs you have to pay dues. That's not fair, and some dues shouldn't have to be paid, but I think a lot of people are on some level willing to accept that bargain. Now, what do your dues get you? It doesn't seem like much at the major publishers.
Yeah, I think that's right. And so, I don't know, I'll be curious to see what, I'll be curious to see what happens at the Game Awards. I'll be disappointed if nobody, look, I know that the expectations are low, but this is the kind of situation where a lot of people are going to be watching this. Yeah. And I would be disappointed if no one took the time to be on that stage and acknowledge what Keighly will not, because he can't. You know what I mean? Like it's easy to dunk on him, dunk away. But
he's just in a different lane. Like he's an MC, he's a promoter. Like I understand why that guy can't do it, but also then, it's the attempt. It's when he ends up walking that line of like, but we do care about the situation, we do observe it. And it's like, but that care can't translate in anything. So like, it's worth nothing.
Yeah. I mean, granted, it does. I do understand if he'd never raised his ire about anything, which is pretty much his MO, that's one thing. But boy, when
Kojima got disrespected.
Exactly. That's why it gets under everyone's skin. Yeah. And that's why I was hooting and hollering for the dunking. Because like, come on, man. Like when they go after your boy, he went hard against Konami as though, by all accounts, Konami, not a great place to work, and like treated him like shit. Whatever you think of like the ego of Kojima, seems bad.
But wasn't also Konami at that point essentially
divesting of the games.
It's done with games basically, right? Like
yeah, but it's sort of irrelevant. It's like it either
I don't know. I think it's extremely relevant to his reaction, right? That is part of why.
That's a good point.
Because,
like this is never gonna come back on you because they're getting into the health club business.
Right, exactly. Like he's like there was not really he wasn't putting skin in the game because Konami was getting out of games.
Right.
Well, I just can't wait. When it's all under new management, like the 2025 Game Awards, when whoever is emceeing at this point, comes out and says, "I've waited my whole life to bring this out on stage," and curtains pull back and 3 guillotines are rolled into the center stage.
Jeff is out here asking for suggestions. So did y'all see that Reddit question?
No.
Q&A?
Oh, for like future ideas?
Well, no, like literally it was like somebody asked during he was doing a Q&A on Reddit about the Game Award. Somebody asked, "Will you acknowledge Activision's shitty behavior?" And he responded, "It's certainly been so sad to read all of the stories. I'm thinking about the right way to address this in the show and how we can help the situation for developers. Last week I said I was trying to navigate what to do or say, and that became a whole story unto itself. The situation at Activision is terrible, but there's also a larger industry conversation to have. How do you guys think I should handle it? I realize I have a big platform and I'm just trying to figure out how to best help TBH," which was like
a trending gamer could not have handled it any better.
Yeah, you're, I guess, a small sad star for trying.
Turning the giant knob.
Yeah,
it says acknowledgement.
Just,
that makes me think he's gonna say something.
I think, I think there's gonna be some sort of something. It might not be
like
great.
The show will start
something
with like who loves video games? Like turn to crowd like, yeah, but video games are made by people.
Yeah, there you go. There it is.
And people.
And everyone deserves a safe place to work. And as an industry, Right. Anyway, who's ready for some trailers?
Yeah. So, but you know what? Had that been things played out without being your arm twisted to saying that, I think that would have fallen within the bucket of be like, yeah, what else do I expect from a promotional event that is basically just E3 E3 West, like whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? Like, I guess they're both on the West Coast, but you know what I mean? And people just would expect that. Like, and they'd be like, oh, well, that's better than nothing, but like that's kind of all we would expect from the Game Awards and Jeff Keighly and given his role. But when it was like, boy, when you have to like the internet has to spank them to get to say like harassment bad. That's a bad look.
Yeah.
Well, and the last thing I think it's also made complicated by the fact that a lot of people who have suffered in some of these situations, many of these people are still proud of the games they make and the work of their teams.
Yep.
And so that's why, like, you do see a certain reticence to say, like, you know what, and burn it all to the ground, like, don't buy this publisher's games, etc. Like, fuck all this. A lot of folks end up in this place of, hating parts of their work experience, but also loving parts of it and being proud of some of the output. And I think that makes it also really complicated as well, because the industry skates by a lot of times on this it's not just that people ship to get a credit in a game. It is that people want to ship their game. They want to see this thing go and live in the world. And the industry skates by on that a lot too. Where when the chips are down, there's, a lot of people are here for love and also a sense of professional achievement. And that comes via making a good game. Ultimately, who does that serve? A lot of times not the people who actually made it. Anyway, let's take a quick break here, and then we'll dig into what we've been playing and maybe find some time to rummage around the old mailbag.
Ooh.
All right, and we're back. So, Cado.
Yo.
Uh-oh.
What's up?
Tell me about CHOPVS.
It's CHOPVS. CHOPVS.
That's the new Food Network show about League of Legends, right?
Right. Shit, I downloaded League of Legends over the weekend. I made some mistakes with my life over the weekend.
Stop it. You could bring that up on our Secret Arcane podcast sometime next week. Don't tell Rob that we're recording a Secret Arcane podcast.
Wait, is there an Arcane podcast?
I would definitely never reach out to the wonderful crew of people that I recorded a Life is Strange True Colors spoiler cast with and go, yo, I've been disrespected for weeks. I've been very patient with my coworkers saying, just watch an episode. So I have like a group of people to like give some context to this
an episode,
great show.
Patrick.
And then you watched the whole show. And then I said, Cado, I wasn't even going to tell you we were recording this, but now you're in. And the full party's back together. Probably in the evening sometime next week.
Yeah.
We'll see. Anyway.
CHOPVS. Okay, Chorus. The actual name of this game is Chorus, but they've made some bad branding decisions. Mm-hmm. And so they replaced the U with a V, which makes CHORVS. But then they also cut off one of the stems on the R to make it look like a P. Decision. And CHOPVS, which is the joke I'm making. I'm just explaining the joke now.
I just had the first academic check-in with my oldest, with kindergarten teacher, where they go over hey, based on where we expect your kid to be on language, recognizing letters and starting to learn to figure out what even is reading. And so she's all across the board, exactly where she should be, above in a bunch of great places. What she can't figure out are what's the difference between an R and a K? Because that shit's hard. Mm-hmm. They look exactly the same when you're 5 years old. And so when you mentioning this, that's all I could think of was that teacher just saying look, if she mixes up the R and the K, that totally makes sense because that shit looks similar, but she's 5. And I don't understand why the marketing department on this game is we have a low budget indie game targeting an audience of people who don't want to play space sims, but just want to fly around in a cool spaceship and blow shit up. We're going to make it harder to Google our game.
But Chorus, I just played the demo. It's about an hour long. It's really fun. It's not a space sim, but so what surprised me was, I couldn't tell this from the trailers that I watched, it's that it's open world. It's an open world space game where you're flying around and
you just put your finger on my hesitation with it.
Yeah, I think the open world parts are okay. They're fine, right? You're just flying around. There's a consider something like what's the word I was looking for? The game I was looking for, the big space game. The big space game where you're in
Colony Wars.
You're in space and people didn't like it.
Wing
No
Commander.
Man's Sky. Sorry. So in No Man's Sky you can fly around and the whole thing is you never stop flying around. It's all seamless until you teleport from one galaxy system to the next. It's similar where you never stop flying around except when you teleport from one area to you're not teleporting, you're just going into hyperspeed. And it still is seamless. You can still stop anywhere along the way, but that's how they get around it being kind of open. But the way that you play the game is really fun and kind of an arcadey take on space combat where it's got a couple neat things. First off, you got your standard drifting, which any good space game needs to have, right? That is that lets you hold the you turn off all your thrusters, you can turn in and keep your momentum. That part is great. The one then there's a power where that really kind of changes everything is basically a get behind an enemy power. It's called the Right of the Hunt, and if you are facing, if there's an enemy on your screen basically, and they're within the radius of this power, you hit the button, and it doesn't matter what direction they're flying, you teleport to behind them.
That sounds awesome.
Don't encourage this.
It's so
You need
good.
to earn your
You don't
kills.
understand. It's amazing. Especially it feels so good to be like going like face to face, like they're running at you, you're running at them, and you do the fucking firing pass, and then like just before they get out of your view, you hit Q, and then you're immediately behind them. Oh, mwah, so beautiful.
This is like that episode.
Cado, you didn't do 30% on your thrusters, and then like you gotta move around, and then
This is like that episode of King of the Hill where Hank wants to take Bobby hunting, and he ends up going to like a luxury hunting range where they go up in like a fully furnished tree stand, and then the deer feeders pop out at the base of the tree, and trusting little fawns walk out into the clearing.
Fuck off. I like somewhere around the PS1 era, and like when like Psygnosis was making like Colony Wars is like kind of the last one I can remember. Like this is kind of like the era that these games died in. I played the Wing. I early PC. I loved playing like Wing Commander. I got less into TIE Fighter and X-Wing because those required a little more like management of the systems.
I think I'm putting together why you didn't get into those.
Yeah, because I want the pretty space shooter. Like that's what I want. I'm not a sim guy. Like, but I want like I want the arcady, the thing blow up in space, and that game disappeared. Like it just went away. And I mean, a lot of space stuff disappeared. Like that is sort of as like a setting was not really. You didn't. I mean, I guess there was still some stuff on PC, but like generally, like that kind of disappeared after the '90s for whatever reason, and especially the arcade one like went away. And that's why
it's on
I have
the
this game
cooldown,
downloaded.
Rob. You can't do it for every single enemy. You gotta, you gotta wait a little bit. You can
pretty generous with that cooldown, dog.
You can upgrade your ship to make the cooldown shorter, so that helps.
All right.
But,
Okay, so this is
and then the other like bit of combat that you need to do is basically a kind of weapons tree, weapons triangle. Lasers are good against shields, rockets are good against armor, and then you have your regular Gatling gun for kind of everyday fire.
Just a quick thing, did you get a sense of who you are in this game?
Yes. Yes.
What do you so quick thing about who you're playing
about the
what are you trying to say? No,
it's good. I think it's good.
Oh, all right.
I think it's good.
Okay.
I think it's good. I think it ends up
like
being
Rob
good.
was trying to take us down.
What if one of the guys working the Death Star laser got woke?
Yeah,
Wasn't that the whole premise of the Star Wars Battlefront 2?
This is very except dude, I literally mean so the opening of this is so I got into a cult.
Yeah. Yep.
I basically the space yellow turbines were sweeping through space, and like this guy promised to heal the galaxy, and I was like, I'm all about that. And then he awakened my telepathic gifts. Anyway, long story short, then he's like, let's start exterminating everyone who doesn't get on board with our program, who does not join the chorus. And she was like, sounds good. And then he was like, destroy this inhabited planet and all its billions of beings. And she was like, oh, I hate this. Okay. And then she was like, you know what? That was too far.
That was too many billions on my hand. The first billion, I was okay with it.
Okay,
now that I've done that, I do have regrets.
I didn't know those specifics. I did get the idea. I did, like, obviously they make it because the demo kind of starts in medias res. It's like, I think like the fourth or fifth mission in the actual game. And it like, makes like you're flying around in the circle is what the cult is called. You're flying out in a circle ship, so like people react to you. They're always like, "Oh shit, it's a cultist! Please don't kill me!" And you're like, "No, I'm chill. I'm one of the good ones."
Those exist?
Yeah, apparently you're like one of the only ones ever. So
no, they're orthodox.
Right?
I'm reformed.
I'm reformed. CHORVS. But so like the story, like story wise, you're essentially helping to fight against the cult that you were once a part of, but that also means that you have this ship. People are like weary of your presence everywhere.
So you're like Darth Vader, and you're like, shit, Palpatine's evil.
Very, dude. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It is like it is like Darth Vader was like, fuck this shit. I'm out of here. I'm gonna become a
Red One.
Like he's not just that, but also he's gonna be a TaskRabbit.
Right. Yes.
Like,
yes.
Like that's the other part of this is, and this is so I started playing a bit of this on Xbox.
Is it on Game Pass?
Pardon?
Is it on Game Pass?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Just check.
But like I was curious about CHOPVS. And so
CHOPVS Trap House, my favorite space pod.
So I typed that into my search bar. That didn't help, and then I remembered it's actually Chorus. So I started checking it out, and I was like, "Hey, this lady seems like she like a little late in the day to like begin one's redemption arc." But the thing that turned me off a little bit is that it opens strong, but then okay, this is really more of a me problem. I concede this. It's not like the game is hiding where critical path is. It's not like the game is concealing like, okay, look, if you want story stuff to happen, here are the 2 highlighted waypoints.
Right.
On the other hand, it's got a relay. You could, upgrade that ship so many ways.
Oh my God.
You could like buy nice loot. And also then of course you develop masteries by doing shit with your ship.
Right.
And so like the more you do certain tactics, the better you get at them, etc. But then the game's encouraging you should also just like mix it up so you develop more masteries. And I'm like, I should. And that leads me to, I'm in this open world where it's like, okay, so there are the 2 waypoints where like interesting stuff is going to happen. Yep. And then there's this garbage scow I could escort across the empty nothingness of space for like $50. And I was like, I better escort that garbage scow. Because I bet, first of all, $50, that's like half of a Gatling gun. And two, like I'll probably get in some dogfighting along the way. Because you know how people like love to jack garbage scows. So I will like do that. And then I'm like, okay, this experience is getting a little flat. And that's sort of the tension is, I think for me, Patrick, where I get nostalgia for space shooters is, like, yes, 1, I'm a sim guy, but 2, there's the, it's a bit like the Burnout series in some ways where like, you had like, there's people who are like, are ride or die for the ones where it was like, no, there's like levels. There's like specific races that are like authored. And that's kind of where I end up with a lot of space games where it's like, for me, Free Space 2 is still like the high watermark of this entire genre. And every one of those missions is like expertly scripted and crafted, etc. Wingman tended to be the same way. And then the genre increasingly is moving in the space of like, and this is where like Chris Roberts' Freelancer actually was sort of pointing, even if it didn't really get off the ground. The genre generally leads in this direction of, well, it's just be open world. And like you should have the freedom to go explore and play like, ever more advanced versions of Privateer, which was sort of the open world Wing Commander game. And time was I was really into that, but now I'm like, I don't even want the option to go ruin my experience playing like kind of the C tier quests, right?
Well, it doesn't seem like I haven't played this yet. I'm probably going to download it over the holiday. It's been like my post game of the year, post doing stuff like seems like a fun holiday break game to spend some time with while my kids are at daycare and I have days off. I can just fuck around with something. But yeah, I think you're right. I think this is like a game where like open world is a curse, like both for the developer in that got to fill it with stuff, pad it out, and then for the player where we are encouraged, our brains are wired to like tick those boxes, and like even if the thing you should do both as like the designers propelling you forward and a player pushing forward
and
like
a person with finite time on God's earth.
Yeah, is like go to the next big thing.
Yeah.
And that's what Colony Wars was too. Like that's like that was like the last like big space thing games that I played, and like those were like same as like early Wing Commanders, like go do the story mission. Like that's the thing you're here to do. Like go do the big scripted bombing run or whatever. Go get in this dogfight. And it was always the illusion of, wouldn't it be cool if I could just like take a left and then like explore space? And it's like, hey, space is kind of fucking boring.
It wouldn't.
Like space is like really big and empty, and maybe you should just warp to the next important story mission, or handle that stuff differently in like in Wing Commander. You know, like Wing Commander 3 and like those games, like, well, I finished the story mission and then like I'm on the ship and like I walk around and have conversations. Like I have that the feeling of choice,
that low impact time,
the low impact feeling of choice where I'm doing something that's driven by what the player wants to do in a separate space that is not, especially for a smaller game like this. It's like, well, I guess we could do an escort mission. And that's not like dunking on like the person who designed the escort mission. It's just like, it's the low-hanging fruit that's not going to feel good for the game or for the player.
Well, and people who script these things know what the score is. They like, I mean, it's the same thing as like trying to write a million good barks, right? It can't be done. Like eventually you're just like, okay, and now he's just going to say, look out, they're over there. And that's it. There we go. Like, what's the next variant of that? And then
it's just a matter of like, how well is the game able to communicate, move on. But then even if you have a game that is communicating that, and I you know, I don't know, having not played it, like how well or how poorly it does that. You're always going to have players who don't have the self-control to not like sweep up all that stuff, right? We're like, gotta go do that side stuff. And like, you can just, like, I remember the last time I really encountered that was that opening area in Dragon Age Inquisition. What is that area called? It's the big, like,
it's got not the Barons. That's wow, but it's
I wrote a whole article about it. I was like, that area wasted my Dragon Age Inquisition.
Oh wait, the first one. I remember this. Yeah.
You gotta get out of the
something lands.
I'm scrolling through this article. Where do I say it?
The name.
Come on, Patrick.
Command F lands.
Lands.
Something lands. I'm pretty sure.
Landscapes. I wrote landscapes.
You got to get out of Four Seasons landscaping.
God damn it! No, we're not moving on. Like I've Inquisition walkthrough.
How many people do you think are screaming at
Hinterlands?
Like
Get out of the Hinterlands!
Where'd it go? R.I.P. Tilted Mill. Gone too soon.
That was an area. That's like the quintessential like area I think of. Where like beautiful. I'm loving the way this game looks and plays, and these characters. I'm gonna do everything there. And by the time I left, I was like, I don't want to play the rest of this game because I'm exhausted. And it's because it's like we got this big open space. You gotta fill it, and then it turns out doing that with good scripted, like interesting stories, setups, character. Like there's so much work that goes into that, and so I don't. But maybe I'll just have to keep that in mind when I play it, and just like, hey, maybe just do enough to like upgrade your ship a bit, and then like keep pushing along.
Having dragged it a little bit for just like committing some of the sins of open world stuff, I will say, Cado, did you get a sense of like because this is really played up in the opening stages of the game, but like, was there inner monologue stuff happening when you were playing it?
Yeah. Yes. Her like she whispers to herself basically, or like it's like her inner monologue, but it's always in whispers. It happens.
Yeah, it's
a lot.
I kind of dig it that she's like that. Her trying to be a decent person is this mask she's putting on, right? That like, but still, like her instincts, everything about her is this like cold-blooded executioner for this cult.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so throughout all of this, like what she is saying and doing publicly is performing, like she doesn't want anyone to know like what she used to be.
Yes.
She is trying to manifest like what does a normal, like peaceable person in this universe like look and sound like.
Yeah.
But then in her head, like her first reaction to things, her knee jerk is like, you could just kill them all.
That's interesting. That's interesting because I'm not sure how far in the demo is, but the sense I was getting a lot more is that her inner monologue had changed at that point to be more just about what's the word I'm looking for? Her anxieties around people like not trusting her, right? Like at this point being like, oh, like I'm still in this chorus ship and like in this cultist ship and I should extend trust, like there's an option to like trust some pirates at a certain point.
Yeah.
And she like turns that kind of back onto herself and is like, well, I'm gonna try to extend the trust that people won't extend to me to them. And I think that part is actually an interesting way to get at, especially when this character is like going through a big change in like what their worldview and like position in that world is. So I think it mostly worked for that hour.
Yeah, that
so
part I kind of dig. Like, because like I think characterization is tough in games like this because ultimately you're a spaceship, right? Like here I am, I'm 100%. A spaceship. How am I developing my character? Well, I put different guns on it. Yeah, but so you have to, and then most of the conversations happen like via radio messages and such, and so I kind of dig this approach of, well, you're also getting messages from your own sort of tattered conscience at times, and I like that part. Sort of catches my attention. It's nifty. I'm gonna stick with it a bit longer to see how it develops. I
need to actually get it so that I can see what the arc is on that stuff, because it was a very small slice, but a very fun slice. Did you do any finding ghosts? No.
Okay. Yeah. So this is something I don't know if they would do it throughout the game, but the opening of the game, you can go up to places, and it's a bit like, it's about like any number of games where you go to a place where there's like ectoplasm hovering, and you're like, press A to summon this memory, and it's always bad shit. It's always like, oh no,
something went bad here.
Here's where the cult murdered another million people. Hope I was involved with that. That stuff is less well rendered because like it's like the ectoplasm just flickers and you get some radio messages, but like it's not like you see ghost ships or anything, which would be kind of cool. It's just kind of weird. It's like you just sort of float your little spaceship over to a space bloodstain, and you're like, wonder what happened here. And then you hear like some fucked up shit. But yeah, like I'll be sticking with it a bit longer. It's an interesting game. Patrick, you've also been dipping into some demos, right?
I have been. Cado, remind me. I'm sure I can get you a code for that full
that'd
game
be great.
If you want to play
Thanks,
more. Yes, I'm playing a couple different things. There's Microsoft's done this a couple times now. They did it earlier this year, like a demo festival, kind of like how Steam does. Like, hey, play a bunch of slices of pre-release games, and they have a new one going on Xbox right now. They claim there's like a landing page for that. I have no idea. I could not find it. I hate the Xbox and the PlayStation UI. I think they're both trash. I wish they would just start over. I can't find things on either of those. It's like easier to install things on Xbox.com than it is to and send it to my Xbox than it is to navigate the actual console UI. That's what I constantly do.
It should be an amazing ecosystem, and it's just fucking terrible. Why do I still not know which of the three things that are like Xbox labeled on my PC is the correct one for what I want? Like,
the PC is like its own,
but they want it to all be
nightmare.
One beautiful thing
know,
where it's like they talk to each other and they just don't.
Well, look, Game Pass games can still corrupt your hard drive, so that's a problem. Yeah, so three I'll hit them really quick that I played and liked quite a bit. Shortest one is a game called Overpass, and these are all demos. You can just go down. Again, in theory, there's a landing page. Just search them on the store, and you'll find the demos. Overpass is this music rhythm game where it seems like you're kind of like in a car, and you're looking up, and like different objects in the environment represent like if you're getting into the left, middle, or right lane, and then you're hitting a button to sort of like confirm that. So it's like left lane, press A, and like that like confirms like the direction you're in and like the input. And it has the common problem of like the first area with like it's like techno electronic music feels very disconnected from the button input, and like that's the satisfaction I get from music rhythm games is I like want the tactile feeling of participating in the music or that being reactive in the environment somehow. The moment I play a music rhythm game where like that's not connected to the music in some way, I don't know what I'm doing there. And there's only 2 levels, but the second level, like really starts to kind of like hone in on that. And like there's this as the song increases, you have like trees falling over, and those are like the thumping beats of like the drums, and like you're doing that alongside your fingers, and you have like drones coming in overhead, and you're like switching lanes. Why it's like it could be really cool. It seems like a really
it sounds really
demo.
cool. I don't know where you it could be. It's
well, that's
not,
what I mean. I don't. Well, it's only two. Like by the end of the second level, I was like, oh yeah, like go give me a harder version of this, and like where I'm really like going along the music, and then it ends and it comes out next year. But it's worth.
Okay.
Yeah, so like there's just enough of a taste like I could see something really cool. Like the aesthetic is like, I don't know, like it frequently feels like I'm like driving through Vegas. There's like weird future pyramids and things like that. I don't even know how to really describe like the look that it's going for. But for me at the end of the day, it's like the music and the button presses and like how does that go, how well those go together. And by the second song, it went pretty well. And I'll be curious to see where it goes in the future. Loot River. Highly recommend checking out. This was a game that we
Loot River wider than the night. Sorry, go on.
No, keep going. Like go until you run out of words. Is what's the best way? A roguelike action game mashed up with Tetris. Which is to say, kind of an overhead, kind of hyper light drifter-ish, like sort of action game. Like you're controlling this little character. Yes.
Suddenly I'm having visions of that.
Yeah, we watched a trailer of this,
yeah.
I think back during our E3 streams. There's one that had caught my eye. Probably not during the wholesome games because it's like violent and bloody. But like it starts off seeming like pretty standard in which you are controlling this little a figure who is fighting the good fight for whatever reason this game is invented. I have no idea what the story and lore setup is. But it's all in these kind of like watery areas, kind of like a Venice situation where it's like, oh, like there's all this like water around this like civilization. What's the deal? And then the moment you get onto a platform, like a little piece of like wood, it's kind of like boat-like, but clearly not a boat. And suspiciously in the shape of Tetris pieces. With the right analog stick, you can move those pieces around. And so there is both a puzzle and an action element to that. The action element is that, like, I had this sequence where there was a kind of like mid-tier, not quite a boss, but like definitely like more than just like your standard enemy that's just there for XP fodder in front of me. And I was like, I wonder if I could just like slowly move my piece up while I'm on top of it, poke them, and then leave before they can do anything. And I could. And so it's like I'm just like going up, poke, and then like holding down right on the right analog stick or down on the right analog stick and going away. There's like puzzle elements to that where you are like, you can't get through an area until you like sort of like move the pieces around and then figure out the right one for your character to get on and then move forward. I made it as far as like the first boss this game's really hard. It like the character is slow. Like it feels like if a Dark Souls comparison, if you have heavy weight on. I always play those games with medium weight. I get a little bit of roll, but a little bit of like a protection. This feels like I've got that heavy on. I can't move that well. All my attacks are super slow. Maybe that is related to the weapons you're getting by default. I don't know, but it doesn't feel as snappy as I was expecting, and especially as snappy relative to the pieces you're moving around. Like you can really whip the Tetris pieces around, thus your character. But when it actually comes to moving the actual player character that you're controlling, that is very I don't know, kind of cumbersome. It didn't feel great. But I love the like spin on things, and so I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that when it comes out sometime next year. And then the last one is the new game from the Guacamelee folks. I liked that first one, did not care for the second one. Those were like these really cartoonish Metroidvania style games. And this is something pretty different. Nobody Saves the World. It's like this, you get dropped into this, like you're the nobody. You are this kind of like blank looking white, like if you're starting to draw a character, but then gave it no characteristics or color or features, you are just a white blob. And you are like drop into this like kind of like this fantasy universe. And like the local wizard has disappeared, things are going wrong, and you like the local wizard's apprentice is supposed to be the one who should put things right because they're an apprentice, like they were just about to graduate. And then you look into a drawer.
As we all know, wizard apprentices are go-tos when things are fucked up. Famously, they're the people who fix problems, don't cause them.
Exactly. And there's a note from that like city wizard kind of mayor type. It was like, hey, here's a key, like go fix things, apprentice. And like your character, after meeting this apprentice and being like, this guy fucking sucks, like I want nothing to do with him, you like take that object, you get caught stealing that object and get sent into like the dungeon of the wizard to escape. And like that's where like the mechanics of the game come into play, which is in Nobody Saves the World, your main character cannot do anything. Like you have an attack button that can like bust open a chest or something to reveal money, but you look very meek and you're just like, like you can't do anything because the whole game is about changing forms. And so as you complete tasks, you upgrade your character, and that basically gets you like different forms you can change into. Like you can be a rat that can poison enemies and then eat them for health. You can change into a burly soldier type. You can change into an archer. You can change into I think those are the 3 that I got in the demo. And then so that kind of plays into the world you're exploring, where it's like, hey, this area can only be accessed if you're the rat. But you can change, you just pull up a wheel like it's a weapon wheel, switch over to that, and then within those different form or class types are different attacks. But what I thought was cool, like more than just like that's a fun way to set up kind of an action like Zelda-y sort of game, is that the way to upgrade each of those individual characters is by accomplishing kind of like weird tasks related to what their actions are. So for example, the soldier type, yes, they can become more powerful by just pure attacking, but that's just filling in like a quest that says like kill 60 enemies with your sword attack. But then if you want to upgrade them where they get access to more abilities, you're going to have to play the game in different ways. Like for example, it's like, hey, kill 30 enemies when you only have 50 HP remaining. So it's like you purposely need to get hurt or be at low health and then attack a bunch of enemies to fill that in. And all the different forms, in order to upgrade them, it is not just using them, it is using them in often slightly strange or different ways than how you would normally play those sort of different class types. And I found that part to be like really cool and enjoyable. I've said this before, like I like it when games prompt me to play the game differently than how I would just settle into. And it seems like part of this game's premise is, hey, if you like this form and you want it to be more powerful, well, we're going to force you to play it increasingly different ways and weird ways in order to upgrade like that specific path. And if you don't want to do that, well then, go screw around with one of the other forms and, see what you can do there. So it's really neat, cool art style, like novel, like mechanical setup for an otherwise pretty familiar premise. But yeah, those are Nobody Saves the World, Loot River, Overpass, and there's a bunch of other games. There's like a beekeeping simulation game that I didn't check out, but I'd heard some good things about. But yeah, some cool stuff up there.
All right. Can we talk about the Stalker screenshots a little bit? Just for one quick second. Just
sure.
One little thing.
Absolutely.
Patty, you posted a screenshot and you were like, this is an actual Stalker 2 screenshot. And I think you were sort of noticing the same thing I did, which is that it looks a lot like concept art come to life. Like that's an actual screenshot. Yeah. That looks like concept art, which is exciting. Like that'd be, if a game looked like that, that seems like it'd be pretty cool.
Is it exciting for you, improbable. Patrick?
Why would it not be exciting?
Because your computer.
Hey, I got Xbox Series X, baby. This game is like being promoted as
okay, but that's not off of Series X.
But it'll look good. This is part. I guess this game is being one of the first games that's going to be published like using Unreal Engine 5. I think that is the case. So that may be a contributor to why it looks as. Right.
But do we believe in them?
No, absolutely not. But here's
these
what
are
I'm
bull
hopeful.
Shots. You're saying
I don't know if they're bull shots, but I've been skeptical about this game like from the beginning because like the amount of times that there's like the original Stalker team is making a new Stalker game that that feels like a scam, or they're just like even this one when it was announced, I don't know, had shady vibes when it was first announced. Like especially when it's a game is like, we've announced this game 4 years before it's going to come out. I hope you look forward to it. It wasn't 4 years, but it was like a long ways out. It's like that just feels weird. But I don't know, this seems like a real game. It hasn't been delayed yet. I still expect that to happen, but hopefully it's just from like March to May. And if they're putting screenshots out like this, I'm hoping there's a Game Awards trailer that's going to show us not just like some funny world humor, but how's this game actually going to play and look. I'm choosing to be my heart tells me, or my brain tells me to be pessimistic. My heart tells me to be optimistic. Because look, if it looked half as good as that screenshot, fuck yeah, man! Like let's go. I mean, it looks photorealistic, or like you're right. It looks like concept art.
Well, I would say it looks anything but photographic.
Yes. I guess what I mean by that is like it feels so close to how you would in your mind's eye imagine like what would a next gen Stalker game look like, and it's like well, looks like that.
Cado, do you believe?
No.
Okay.
I am cynical.
Well,
these look like they just look like screenshots. They just look like screenshots. They don't look like they don't look like bullshots to me.
No, but it does kind of look like somebody put a gun in front of some concept art. It looks like
I think what it's gonna be, it's like this will work if your machine cost you like an arm and a leg yesterday.
Well, the thing is, like, it's in engine, yes, but we rendered it at like 8K, and like yes,
the one with the dogs that just looks like a video game. That looks like a game that you could boot up. You know, I mean, yes, the fog is very pretty, but I don't know. I would like to believe.
I want to believe. I definitely want to believe.
It makes it feel real, though. I mean, those look like those are coming from in an engine,
right?
Like,
yes. I mean, I think they are coming from in an engine. I feel like it's like performance or balanced mode or whatever. Like it'll be like pretty, but maybe not run super well if it actually looks like this. I don't know.
And the other tricky thing too is like a lot of times like stuff can be really striking in a beautifully like composed still image, but if you're like moving around in a game that actually looks that way, like visually you can't see any like. Nothing pops, right?
Right.
So I'm also curious, like, if the game does look like that, how do you make that style not kind of overwhelming to like sort of hang around in?
I mean, it's also the case to my mind, we have not seen like a real next gen game yet. Like Ratchet and Clank was extremely pretty, but a lot of that could have just been a game that you played on the PS4. I guess I can talk about it here. I forgot, I didn't put it in our notes, but like I've messed around with that Matrix Unreal Engine 5 thing, which is basically like an Unreal Engine 5 coming out party. And I just confirmed like this game is in a UE5. Like we haven't played games in UE5. And if you watch any of those tech demos, it seems like genuinely like part of the reason why games don't feel like we haven't had that like next gen bump is because like that was unfortunately it was just like a couple of years off, and that we're gonna I think start seeing. Keighly's he's a marketing guy, but like one of the things he has said is like a couple of the trailers that he's seen for the Game Awards like feel like what people have been waiting for is like, where's that game that's gonna like fucking pop, like make me feel like what are developers doing on this new hardware that they couldn't do before. And I guess that's where kind of maybe I choose to believe is like we really haven't seen actual games running on Unreal Engine 5, and the Matrix stuff is neat. Like it is not a game.
What's that called again?
The Matrix Awakens, a Unreal Engine 5 experience. I think that's what it's called, and it is more the latter than the former. I mean it has. The script was written by Lana Wachowski. There are shots of like Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, like that was shot by Lana while they were shooting Resurrections. And there's a moment where Carrie-Anne Moss has an Unreal joke that I was like, how many times did she record that. Like, I mean, it's meant to be cheeky and like make you roll your eyes. But it's extremely pretty. Like it is like there is a chase scene that is basically like playing like the Matrix Reloaded highway scene in real time. That is really like something else. Like it just looks incredible. And if like that is a hint at what games are going to look like, it makes me think that, like, this screenshot's not necessarily fully off based on what I saw in that little tech demo. I've got a story going up. It'll be up by the time you listen to this, where I didn't closely look at who I was on a call with to interview. I booked an interview like related to that little Unreal Engine thing, and then like 5 minutes before I like looked closer and I was like, oh, like the CTO of Epic, and I was like, all right, you know, some executive, like I'll figure out some questions to ask them. And then I was like, oh, that's the visual effects supervisor for like all the Wachowski movies, including the 3 Matrix movies. And then they just moved over to Epic as part of like the Hollywood and like converging, you know, with the Mandalorian and all these other things. It was like a super fucking fascinating interview with, we spent a lot of time talking about like different movie tricks and what it was like to shoot the highway scene, relative to like constructing the highway scene in, the little Matrix game. Like for example, one of the things that they brought up was the fact that they had no way to simulate like car crashes and things like that, or like to do it accurately when they're like pre-visualization process. Like previs is like, hey, we're going to do like animatics and like 3D renders of like how we think a scene is going to look and work in conjunction with the physical shots and the digital effects that we're going to start constructing and combine with the physical shots when they're shot. And so they just kind of had to guess, like, we think this is how we want the cars would work. And then they got to set after they built a 1.25 mile long highway in Alameda, California. Like they actually constructed a highway for that movie. And they were telling me like they would get on set and tell the stunt people like, all right, so we like, this is how the shot's set up and this is what we want the car to do based on like how we've done this pre-visualization. And the stunt people would be like, you can't, cars don't do that. Like, no. And so they just had to like throw out the previs shots because they couldn't do enough simulation work to understand what they could do. So just fixing the shots in post, or just like coming up with different ideas in real time. The other thing was, well, they were shooting the highway scenes to try and put to line up what they thought the shots were going to look like with the effect shots they were planning or already working on, because frequently and even back then, and especially now, they'll work on effects for scenes like before they've shot the movie and while they're shooting the movie, like because they take so long to put together. They would put like tape on the ground for the stunt people who were driving the cars, and be like, hey, if you could drive like in between this tape, that'd be great, because that'll be like a marker we're using. And then they'd be like, none of them could do it. Like none of the stunt people, like they would just be wildly off the mark on the tape. And they're like, well, I guess we're reinventing that shot again when we get into post. And the other like really good factoid, there's a bunch in the story. Like I didn't even intend to write it up. I thought I was just going to talk about it here. And then it was just like a bunch of really fun Matrix facts was, so they were talking about the fact that when you see like the cars in the highway chase in Reloaded, a lot of times they're like, you know, they are like rolling over and bashing real cars, and like glass is shattering everywhere. And they were like, so if you like look closely, it's like way more glass that makes sense for like what a car would have. They're like, because we don't know what's going to show up in the shot. And like in the back of those stunt cars were people whose whole job was to just have buckets of glass. And so when the car like was being flipped, or like that was a sequence where like a car was doing like a crash, they're just dumping glass out of buckets in the back. Just try to shove as much as you can outside of the back of that fucking car so that it looks semi-realistic. Whereas in like this chase sequence in like the little tech demo they've got set up, it's like the glass that's shattering is simulated to be the glass that would shatter out of a car. And so just a lot of little things like that were like really fascinating parallels to having just watched those movies and then seeing this. It's definitely worth downloading if you've got a PlayStation or an Xbox. It's probably on PC as well, because it is really pretty and then kind of a goofy glimpse at like future tech. Anyway, Stalker 2 looks good too. I hope. That's my long way of saying
Nobody would have ever wanted to wake up if only the Matrix had been running UE5.
Fuck. No, it would have been too perfect.
UE5
that's
is
the one
the
they
blue pill.
fucked up.
Yeah. Pat, do you want to hit anything else, or should we get into the bucket?
That's it. That's all I got. Would you play anything, Rob?
Oh yeah, I'm hey gang, it's Topical Gamer here.
Oh, should I not have said anything? I should have just gone to the mail. Oh no.
For reasons, I was like, you know what I need to do? I need to go back to Forza Motorsport 7.
Wait.
We're not there yet. And I need to turn off like pretty much all the driver aids and then set all the race distances to hard, to long, and just like zone out and drive cars for hours.
Okay.
So that's what I've been doing.
It's relaxing.
It is relaxing. When a race is like 13, 14 laps, there's a little tactic at the start, but then you got like 8 or 9 laps where you're really just like, how do I set faster times? It's like a live time trial. It's a lot of fun. The car's changing handling traits. The tires are getting a little worn down. So that's what I've been doing. I've been playing a lot of Forza Motorsport 7. It's the longest races possible.
Can you download? Haven't they been shutting those games down?
No, because this is the mainline game that's not... No, Horizon, yes, they do burn behind them, which sucks. Like, if you try to go buy, like, any of the old Horizon games except for, I think, 4, I think you're out of luck. I don't think you can get 3. If you've got, like, them in your library, they're not gone. Which I think this is the bummer of the Horizon model, of, like, they create these amazing, gorgeous game worlds, and... after a period of years, they basically destroy the game and like delete it.
It's like a licensing issue, right? Like it's like hey, to re-up all the cars we've got in these games doesn't make financial sense anymore for the amount of people that are.
I guess, but like this is not a problem with old
services.
racing.
It services towards buy the new one. Sure.
This is not a problem with old racing, like with other racing games, right? It's not like if I load up, an old Gran Turismo, that it's like, well, we can't even like let you play that anymore. Well, I don't know. Like the issue is when you bought those, you tended to collect them. Now they're live service games. So first they turn off the services and then they delist. So I don't know. Maybe you can't even play. Maybe you couldn't even play some of those older games if they sort of had existed in this sort of digital marketplace landscape. But yeah, no, that's the bummer with Horizon. Motorsport 7, I think because that's still... I think Motorsport is still the flagship franchise in some ways, even though Horizon is the much bigger deal at this point. Like Motorsport is where a lot of the tech emphasis goes, is where a lot of the simulational like fidelity goes in. So
Wait.
that's still around.
You're playing Motorsport 7?
Yeah.
That got delisted in September.
It did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one that was coming to mind.
Yeah.
They
It's
did
literally
not.
the one that you are playing right now got delisted this September.
But everyone's still on it.
Well, yeah, if you own it, you can still play it. They just won't let you new people.
This is fucked up.
Yeah, Xbox just announced that Forza Motorsport 7 will reach its end-of-life status on September 15th, when the game reaches end of life.
When is Motorsport 8?
Well, probably next year, right?
This is nuts, dude.
The game and its DLC will no longer be available to purchase in the Microsoft Store or available with Xbox Game Pass. After September 15th, players who
I am
already own
horrified.
Motorsport 7 will still be able to download and play the game and its associated content as normal.
All the live services are still up. That's the weird part. Is like they're still doing events and shit. It's like, hey, you want to take part in like the holiday event?
That's probably
Yeah,
just
so-
like
So there in this FAQ, it says, why do Forza games reach end of life and or become unlisted? Forza games become unlisted due to the expiration of numerous third-party licenses.
That's fucked up.
Next question. Why can't you tell us when other Forza games are reaching end of life status if it's a matter of licensing? Not all licensing terms and agreements are the same. Does this mean Forza Horizon 4 is also going to reach end-of-life status and reach Xbox Game Pass? So 7 gone, 4 available. Between cars, destinations, sure, tracks, race teams, and music, as well as other licensed content, there can be over 500 signed parties in any given Forza game. Different licensing agreements have different terms and expiration dates. As such, implementing an end-of-life plan for each Forza game is a natural part of delivering world-class automotive experiences to fans.
This is not world-class.
No.
This sucks.
Yeah, in addition, features like multiplayer and online services will still be accessible for those who own the game. It doesn't say here when that eventually gets shut off, but it looks like, yeah, delisted first. And then eventually...
That's so weird, because, like, the thing is, Motorsport 7 does not... Like, it's not that old, is it?
2017? It's been a minute.
Yeah.
But usually you'd wait until the new one's out.
Yeah.
Like Forza Horizon and Forza Motorsport, while I'm sure there is overlap, are targeting different, like there's some different, audience, targeting that's happening there. So it's a little odd that one got shut down.
Also, I never want to hear Microsoft talk about like, our music license agreements. Your weak ass soundtracks are not worth like putting anything in end of life like status.
It probably has something to do with the cars. It probably has something to do with the cars.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, that's wild. Yeah, I would not have thought that they would delist, like, the new game's not even out. And like it's so aimed at being like the sim, the racing sim offering that Microsoft makes. That is wild to me. Wow, it's getting nasty.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen eventually, right? Did they already announce it? 8?
They've said that they're building it. They just haven't. I don't think they've formally shown it, which is
okay.
This is the part where like everything becomes a blur for me. What was was it Gran Turismo that had the really underwhelming like trailers?
I don't know.
Are we sure we haven't seen anything of?
No, yeah.
Of
There was a trailer. I'm looking at a trailer now for. They didn't put the number on it. It's just called Forza Motorsport. They're doing the iPhone thing.
Well, it's easy to start doing that once you start sunsetting everything behind you.
Yep.
That just drives me nuts. Because here's the other thing I hate about that, right? Old cars are cool. So it's kind of nifty to be able to go back to like an older game and like see what was the top of the line back when you play this stuff.
Right.
And if you're like constantly deleting that, you're also kind of deleting the like selection of stuff that existed in that game. And I imagine not all of it comes back. Now, Forza car lists just get absurd, and not every car seems to be modeled with like, not every car seems to have like particularly distinctive or interesting handling characteristics. It gets, once they started moving into a model where it's like, here's your rare cars, here's your legendary cars, you were gonna start getting some dross at the common tier of cars. Like, you open up your little car pack and it's like, oh no, another Miata. So that's the direction they've gone. But anyway, well, I'm having fun with it. Just vibing, playing my old racing game.
So you owned it outright. You didn't have it on Game Pass, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Apparently, if you had it on Game Pass but bought DLC, they are giving you the full game for free so that you can continue to play it once it's delisted. Or, well, did. It's already delisted.
Now it's too late. So now I'm here, and I'm like, man, I forgot how good Forza Motorsport 7 was. It's gorgeous. The racing action is fantastic, and genuinely, there's some great shit in that game. And if you missed it, sorry. Guess we'll catch you.
Wait for the pirates to catch up in 10 years. Good news, you will receive a token for the game through your Xbox Message Center, and that token doesn't expire until 2023. So you still have a chance to download that game, even though it's been delisted.
See, this is why, I suspect this is one reason why, so if you get into like hardcore sim racing, I don't know if it's still like this, but for a long time, like one of the real like foundations of that was this old racing game called R Factor, which basically didn't have like many licensing deals associated with it at all, but it did have a high degree of modability. And so R Factor would turn into like this like foundational element for a lot of different racing sim setups, because the mod scene was just creating like different types of racing within it. And you just keep scaling it up, like pushing resolution, and pushing it, like inserting new like physics models for different cars and such. And I always sort of wondered like why communities end up stuck on these old games. And if this is where the licensing landscape has gone, then yeah, it suddenly makes a lot of sense that ultimately your sim enthusiasts would end up on like gray areas, I guess, where they're playing like really more like engines than games in some ways. That's a bummer. That it's a good game. It does, and this is the other thing. It doesn't feel out of date. You know, you play these things and it's like last generation in terms of like what a racing game looked like then. I'm sure Motorsport 8's going to look, you know, we're going to be living in an Unreal Engine 5 era tech tier. Maybe it will be more amazing, but like the old game still looked good. Mm-hmm. So that's weird. Anyway, that's what I've been doing, Patrick. I'm playing a dead game. A literally dead game.
Dead
like,
game.
Dead
everyone
game.
Everyone just at Rob. Dead game.
Microsoft is like holding it down in the bathtub.
Jesus Christ.
But it can breathe until its 2023 tokens taken away.
Why are you still playing this? Okay, so the mailbag.
Oh.
Is that the new
the question bucket?
It's the question bucket.
But you just said it with such an authority. I was like, is that the new? Make that a sound drop. The mailbag.
I was gonna talk about Destiny.
Wait till Monday.
Okay, fine.
Speaking of dead games,
tell us about the whole.
that was absolutely the.
That was the segue.
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody had where is it now? God damn it. Somebody wrote in, I can't find it, about the truth behind your AMC theaters issue, Patrick. Because
my finger touching?
Yes.
What?
Redacted writes in, I worked at AMC for a while a few years back and also got written up a few times for having too many cleared items from the till and only found out later what the actual issue is.
So for people to clarify, it was one of my summer jobs when I was a teenager was at AMC and I did concessions and I got in trouble
for
like,
clearing orders.
For like basically like if someone come up was like, hey, I had like a large Coke and a large popcorn. I actually accidentally hit medium. I fix it. I give them the correct order, took the right amount of money. The exchange all happened, but I lost milliseconds of time recognizing that I, thumbed the wrong thing and fixed it. So it was not that I got the order wrong. I just took half a second longer to input it.
So Redacted continues, I think the talking points are about being careful and timing, but the real concern is that if you are given exact change, you can just clear out the items from the screen without actually charging the customer, allowing you to pocket the cash. My understanding is they don't tell you the real reason, so you don't get any ideas. I found this out after a coworker of mine was fired for this exact thing. He had apparently been doing it for years, and it was his primary way of paying for nice vacations. Obviously, he ended up in real trouble, but was sort of a folk hero to the rest of us. All of that said, it's still a deeply stupid and frustrating policy, but one of the pretty hilarious reason. I hope Patrick appreciates having the secret revealed all these years later.
Wow. Huh.
How much trouble would you have to get in for those nice vacations to not be worth it?
Can they charge you with a crime?
If they caught him, then yes. But if he's doing it for years and years, I imagine there are statute of limitations that run in some of the instances. But they can also...
And also, like, what's the crime? Is it a felony or is it a misdemeanor? Because misdemeanor is not going to impact your quality of life that much.
I think if you're pulling down vacation money through a scam, then it's a felony.
But can they prove... But I wonder, can they just prove that it... So we're going to need a follow-up here from Redacted.
How much? How nice?
And I want to know what the punishment was. Like, could they only just prove, when we know he did it, and he's probably been doing it for a long time, but we have no way of actually showing that. And so, because again, misdemeanor, but you've scammed like $20,000 from the company. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, over how much time though, right?
Yeah, it's
Right.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, did they delve too deep and too greedily? Right, where it's like, okay, I need somebody to come in here and buy like $500 worth of popcorn, and we'll go on vacation together or something. I don't know.
Right. If you had just kept your cool, skimmed paying for your drinks at the vacation.
Mhm.
I just don't see. You know what? I don't see how they catch you unless somebody narcs.
Right.
I just don't see it. I do not see it because they would never review the footage. The only person who's going to like the only way they find out is someone told on you. And I cannot imagine being someone who narcs on a fellow concession stand employee for like taking a few bucks here and there. I just can't imagine doing it.
But your slightly older manager might. That was always the relationship I had working those jobs, whether it was at the grocery store or the movie theater. It was like, yeah, I'm 16, working, I'm like filling in the popcorn machine. But then like my shift manager, they're not in their 20s or 30s, or maybe they are, like they're in college, like they're just a little bit older, a little power. Like that's how I imagine that happens. It's not like the kid I'm working with. They're not going to.
It's a real mixed bag. Like some people like getting that manager status, like it actually does matter to them. Like that little modicum of authority is like what they're there for.
Yeah. It's like being a cop, but
couldn't be me
at the concession stand.
You realize you're not actually a manager of shit, right? Like you realize that you're just a slightly elevated concession stand employee.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this is like the guy who worked for McDonald's. Like, oh, the delight he took in filling out that fucking schedule every week. It was his little weekly ritual where he got his little colored pencils and like told everyone what their schedules was going to be. And people would have to implore him, like, please, sir, I have a date on Saturday. Could I please not work after 7 p.m.? And he'd be like, I'll see what I can do. And then he wouldn't. He'd be like, sorry, I just couldn't. You need to work that night. Like
one of my best friends at that job, I don't know if I told the story on the podcast before, so I apologize if I'm repeating, but there's like a dry erase board where you were supposed to put in like your vacation requests, and then like when the next time you came in, someone would tell you if like it was approved or whatever. And we were going on a family vacation, the standard one we did, which is like rent a place in Wisconsin. This is before my parents had a place, and we'd go up there for like 3 weeks. And my best friend at the time would join us for like a week of that. And it was the end of the summer. It was like, let's say like the second week of August. Like he could have kept working for a couple more weeks before school started, but he just goes up and just writes on the dry erase board, like insert name, redacted, like gone fishing, and just wrote like a big underscored line under it and walked away. And in the middle of our vacation where he was visiting, he gets a phone call and is like, hey, this is yada yada from AMC. You just come into work today? And he's like, no, I wrote gone fishing. I quit. He was like, oh, is that what that meant? I was like, yeah. It's like, so you're not working here anymore? He's like, nah, I'm done. He's like, okay, there are better ways to quit. He's like, all right, hang up.
You don't deserve them.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I think like in general, you shouldn't steal shit. But on the other hand,
neither should they.
A lot of companies habitually steal from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wage theft. Look it up.
Yep. Dude, that McDonald's place, after you clocked out, it took me like, wasn't until later I realized how fucked up this was, but they were like, just as a courtesy, when you clock out, come to the manager and ask, is there anything else I can do? And then you go home.
Ew.
Oh, yeah, dude.
No.
Yeah. So, like, the
As
fucking like grand poobah of this McDonald's franchise was like, that's before you go home, just like see if you can help each other out. Like, do one last thing. And it was always a 15-minute task. And so, you work there 4 days. You've done an hour of unpaid labor for McDonald's at minimum wage. Fuck them. All right. Also, we have an email here from Justin. to the point of unreasonable quotas. Long-time listener, first-time writer. The water bottle ask in the ensuing conversation, see previous waypoints, about time constraints on the job reminded me of a summer job I had in a small family-owned machine shop. My dad had worked in this particular shop for nearly 20 years and suggested they hire me for the summer. The shop was a subcontractor for subcontractors for some of the largest manufacturing companies in the country, so they were basically bidding they could do a job cheaper and faster than any other shop. There's one particular project where I was put on a finishing lathe for some small parts for airplane engines. The quota I was supposed to meet was 60 an hour, which when I saw this was like, what? I went to my dad and asked, how the hell is this even possible? To which he replied, it's not, just do what you think is best. So I started down, the fact that this is an airplane engine component is making me a little nervous. I'm not going to lie, but we're going to continue. So I started down this path of finishing up these parts. Here's a breakdown of the timings. 15 seconds to put the part in the machine. 30 seconds to machine the part. 15 seconds to take it out, rinse and repeat. Okay, so totally doable. However, what about checking for tolerances? The parts are only accepted by the customer if they fall within the acceptable dimensions. The process was to put out my calipers during the 30 seconds of machining to measure as many dimensions as I could on the previous part, but that's not foolproof. Every 10 to 15 parts, I'd hop over to the inspection station and check it out there too, since their tools were calibrated daily and matched how the customer would be measuring. Oh, looks like things are starting to get slightly out of whack. Time to adjust the machine. Add a minute or two. Ah, crap, the cutter is dull as hell. Gotta go replace that. Add 5 to 10 minutes. Ah, shit, I just burned myself pulling this part out because I forgot to point the coolant hose back to the cutting blade. Add 2 minutes for crude bandage. I'll be fine until break time. All in all, I hit about 30 parts per hour, which I consider the max anyone could possibly do without scraping tons of pieces. There were others working on the same project who somehow managed 80 to 90 parts per hour. Any guesses on how many met tolerances? About 50%.
Ooh.
This was literally the last step before heading out the door, and we had to trash 50% of the job. Forget about the $5 raw materials cost per part. What about the previous labor put into it by a handful of others? All that work out the window to meet an unreasonable quota. Jeez. Who do you think got the praise at the end of the day? The person who had 30 accepted parts and no scrap, or the person with 40 accepted parts and 40 scrap? You know the answer. To this day, I think it was a backhanded way of my dad saying, don't be like me, go off to college and do something better, which I did. Ever since then, I have the utmost respect for those out there in manufacturing. Thanks, Waypoint crew, for doing what you're doing, and as always, fuck capitalism, go home.
Yeah.
So, the thing I will say is probably the labor that they're paying for is the finished parts that come out of the factory, right? Like all this is built in, and just assume that like at this rate. The thing that's like sinister is them pretending that they're kind of giving you these bogus quotas to bring you up to these numbers.
Right.
And then encouraging you to half-ass it, putting you in a position to half-ass it in order to just like generate this churn. I had a similar sort of job. And one of the things, like it was a box factory, just tons of packing materials. It was just so think of a paper mill, but it's tons of packing materials that are being made there. And one of the things that you have to remember about like how this stuff is made is it's basically like baked super fast. So like the mush, the like paper slurry, as it were, is fed into molds. And then it's cooked real fast over fire. And then it comes down the conveyor belt and it gets assembled. If it gets slightly out of whack, what you end up with is a fire, right? Like at one end of the spectrum, you've got like goop coming off the conveyor belt. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got pieces that are on fire coming off the conveyor belt. And that's not a problem. You know, it's a small, it's a large warehouse floor. It's just one like tiny thing that's on fire. You put it out, you stamp it out, you wet it so that it's totally extinguished. And then at some point, someone comes along and clears it away. But if things start getting out of whack, or there's a lot of like shit on the floor from like other things not meeting tolerance or whatever, now you have many things on fire. you have nowhere to put it, and you end up with like growing fires on the factory floor. And like this shit would sort of happen routinely. And this is where I talked to one of the old timers at one point. I got like sent over to work with the people who serviced the molds, and they were kind of like they had an interesting gig. They just spent the entire shift in their workshop just hanging out, shooting the shit. And because they were the only people who could like service the machines, like the place didn't run without them. And so they would just hang out, just like playing cards and like doing crosswords in their workshop, and occasionally like tinkering on their molds. And then they would, when things went wrong, everything would come to a halt, and they would have to come out and they would get the entire assembly line sort of back up and running. And management couldn't do anything with these folks because like they were utterly critical. And so I was talking to them once when I was sent over there to work with them. And for one thing, it was like managers hated that from their point of view, these folks didn't do shit all day and collected pay. But on the other hand, they were like highly specialized employees who like didn't need to do their job 95% of the time. And then that 5% of the time, they were utterly critical of the factory working at all. But when I was talking to the old timers there, they're talking about how like back when the union had been stronger at this place, whenever you start having safety issues cropping up, there would be union reps on the floor who would just like shut lines down. They would just like be like, hey, this is not working. It's getting out of hand. We are like shutting down this machine until we can sort of perform maintenance and get it back up and running. And that was kind of, that word was law under that union contract and under that like model of how the factory is organized. When I was working there, the union was basically like it was still a union shop, but like, you know, the factory was barely alive. And there weren't as many employees, and there certainly weren't like union reps doing spot checks of safety on the floor. And so you had like, you know, as he put it, like place was just kept getting more dangerous because stuff that like 20 years ago, people would be like, you know, we actually need to like idle this machinery while we deal with whatever this problem is. That didn't happen anymore. Like the model was, you know, it's only a little on fire. It's only a pile of like smoldering shit, but it's not actually like a big fire yet. Eventually, the fire hoses aren't working. We'll get someone on that, but I guess we should start dismantling the smolder mound. But meanwhile, don't stop like taking new stuff off the line and continuing to package it. So yeah, like manufacturing is weird that way. And yeah, like the thing that made an impression on me was also the degree to which like with the union model there had played a role, not just for like salary and like benefits, but also absolutely made it a safer place to work. And once that was sort of cut out of the equation, it just turned into whatever you can get away with. And that factory had a similar thing where generated tons of waste, and I suspect most of the shit we sent out the door was unusable because we were also like super sketchy about like meeting tolerances. Let's see here. Man, people have so many good stories about fucked up jobs.
I could do one more before I need to go be a parent.
Okay. All right, I'm skeptical of this, so people can weigh in. I'm listening to the Tuesday pod. This is from Jacob. I'm listening to the Tuesday pod a bit late, so I couldn't let you know before. I hope you haven't made a mistake in the time since.
Uh-oh.
You don't need a $500 coffee roaster. All you need...
Don't worry, I will never make that mistake, but I understand where the question is directed at.
All you need is a popcorn popper. Sweet Maria's even do a starter kit with a popper and green beans. If you want to improve the quality of the roast, you can use a voltage regulator to slow the roast and increase the evenness of the roast. If you get into the habit of roasting, then maybe you can have a look at a dedicated roaster, but worth noting, there are decent roasters that are cheaper too. Patrick, I think a whole new world is opening up for us.
I'll get the popcorn machine. That sounds all right. We make
Let's think about it, like
Friday night for the kids.
Coffee ain't cheap, but if green coffee is cheap,
I mean, coffee can be cheap. It's
yes,
you know, coffee can be cheap if it's the big Kirkland bag, and then it's like $17, and you're good for a month. So don't. I'm just saying, don't. Coffee can be cheap.
So
you know what I recently we were at Trader Joe's, and Trader Joe's has just, it's almost like it's daring me. Like it's created, like, come on, Patrick, like you want to know what this tastes like, right?
Mm-hmm.
They sell incredibly cheap booze that they only sell there. Like, I don't know if they bottle it. I don't know exactly. It's kind of like an Aldi's situation where like secretly they have a bunch of booze that's like cheap, but like better than you think. And they had, I think it was a scotch, $11.99. I was like, what? Oh, my heart sings at the prospect of this. Now, granted, it's not like the Kirkland Scotch is like one of the, you know, the big ones, but like this is a decent size. It wasn't like a small batch, when you usually get one of those, which is like pretty small. It was kind of in between. Took it home. It was like surprisingly had no bite to it whatsoever. $11.99.
Wow.
It's impressive. I haven't had a chance to try the Aldi's one, which
it had no bite. But did it have character, flavor?
Yeah, for $11.99, yes.
I don't know what that means.
I
don't know what for $11.99 means.
See, here's unfortunately, COVID has delayed Rob visiting again after he came through a couple of years ago. But at some point, you will come through Chicagoland again, Rob, and we will sit down. We'll do like a live.
We're not doing a blind taste test. That never works out in the favor of the person.
No. It won't be a blind taste test. It will be the opposite of a blind taste test. I'm going to get a bunch of cheap ones, and we're going to sit and drink and talk about it while we take questions from the audience. No, I'm not going to make you guess.
Sounds like great
is
content,
this the Kirkland Scotch? Which, if we did do the blind taste test, I think you would go, well, it's not great, but like this is pretty decent. My guess is that would be your response, because that's my response to it.
The highest triumph I probably ever had doing a blind taste test was when I correctly identified the it was like 3 age stated Macallans, and I was asked to sort youngest to oldest.
By age?
And,
wow, that's impressive.
I was like, yeah, I at least that day I could taste like what was the expensive and what was not.
It's like the basketball player having the once in a lifetime game is Rob being able to rank
just sort out good scotches. I was like, no, hold on.
For once, I was Michael Jordan, and then I went back to.
Hey, last thing, people might be wondering, what do you guys think of Halo? TBD. However, we have a review on our website. Check it out. Cam reviewed Halo Infinite for us. I think we didn't like.
His thoughts mostly line up with the 5 hours that I played. Like, so, to explain, so I got access to Halo Infinite pretty early in November, and what Microsoft told me was like, hey, this build this version of the game. You've got access to it now, and you'll have access to it through the preview phase and the review phase. And I was like, okay. I was interested in checking out the game, and then the review phase will unlock for your reviewer, Cam. I wish we just made Cam from start to finish, because I felt bad that I had access to this game for a full month, and Cam got it for a week. They shut it down They shut the build of the game down on Thanksgiving for reasons that I do not understand. And then also one of the things that Microsoft's able to do is really inside baseball at this point, but they can just flag your account, and then through their beta program, like the Xbox Insider. So it's hey, we want you to play Halo early. You just go in there and you can download it, and it's convenient for both sides, on the PR side and on my side. But they're like, yeah, that version of the game is just gonna blow up. I was like, excuse me? It's yeah, on December 8th, it'll just stop working. I was like, why? And I'm like, it's just gonna stop. And I was like, so if I don't beat the game by December 8th, just gonna lose all that. Because they specifically said the saves wouldn't transfer over. They're like, yes. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna stop playing Halo Infinite, which is what I did. And then now I need to, I downloaded the Game Pass version, but now I've since realized that I can play the game on easy and then change the difficulty mid-game. So I'm going to ratchet it down so I can catch up to the bits that I did before. But yeah, I mean, Games Review is basically like, the Halo parts are good, feels kind of old, sandbox kind of interesting, weird mashup with an older game.
Well, if you want to read the actual review and see what Cam actually had to say, you can go to waypoint.vice.com.
That's a TLDR before you get to Cam's nice words.
I started playing Halo on December 7th. There's a battle rifle and a pistol that are really good. Mm-hmm. There's also a horse.
Get out of here. All right. Get to the outro. He's trying to sneak in his Destiny talk.
Was that with Destiny talk?
You know, they literally
put in Halo weapons.
Okay. Are we? I mean, they literally put those weapons in there. They literally put those weapons in there.
They did. It's cool.
Gotcha. Yeah. That is cool. You know what would be the real 30th anniversary thing to do? That would be re-release Myth, The Fallen Lords, and
those
Soul
games
Blighter.
Are bloody. We still need to play. We were not going to play Marathon. We ran out of time. We could play Marathon. Oh yeah, and also we're not doing anything with Halo, by the way.
Yeah,
we were like we waited too long. We just couldn't get our shit together to play.
Rob was just
Halo.
So much more excited by me claiming that we're going to play Kingsfield 4. Cado and I are going to play Kingsfield 4 in January. I'm not joking. That's what we're going to do in January.
We'll see. Anyway, for our Waypoint Plus listeners,
after Timber, Tober, like the rest of us could do it though.
Oh, stay tuned for next week's Miami Vice revisit with Alex and Dia. 2.5 hours on Miami Vice. The TV series,
are we
not
doing
the
that
movie.
Next week or is that a week after?
I don't know, man.
Let's leave a gap between Waypoint Plus.
Look, all good things flow into Waypoint Plus.
In fact, if you tune into a live stream on December 17th, you'll get a glimpse into the future of Waypoint.
Have we scheduled that?
We said it in a meeting, and now I said it in a podcast. Get working on your PowerPoint presentation.
Wow.
I don't know. Does Rob get to do one?
Yes, I do.
Rob is staying here.
You don't get to be in the sorting hat or whatever we're gonna do. You're outside of that. You're last. You can still pitch us though.
Sorting hat.
I guess that's bad. Sorting hat's been canceled.
Yeah.
We need a
Out.
Sorting hat probably should have been canceled from the start, honestly. But anyway, if all that sounds good.
Oh wait, are we asking for questions? Go to categories.
Yeah, can you put this at the top also, Cado?
Oh shit! Attention, Waypoint gamers.
Well, no, I thought about doing it at the top, but then we were going to talk about the Activision stuff, and it's like, let's ask for some goofy Game of the Year questions at the top. Also, what's going on with that potential strike at Activision-Blizzard? We're doing only 2 Game of the Year podcasts. One's going to be a holiday mailbag, so if you want to write in just holiday questions, you want to do a fresh batch of questions that's not just all the stuff that we're working through, that we haven't gotten to because we've been better about doing mailbag stuff lately. But if you want to send in some new, questions, do that to gaming@vice.com. But the other request is we are going to do a Game of the Year pod where we talk about like our favorite Game of the Year and I don't know, maybe shout out some other stuff that we liked. The other half of that is my thought was, what if the listeners, and also readers, because I'll write it in the newsletter today, you should come up with categories for us to fill. And so we need to get those in. I think we're going to record that next Wednesday. That's tentatively when we've set the recording. And we will go through those so people have some time to think about them, although I'll probably keep some categories a surprise to the recorders. But yeah, give us categories to fill. Those can be serious, they can be silly, but if you write those in for Game of the Year, put that in the title to gaming@vice.com for categories for us to think about the year that was.
Also, gaming@vice.com. People send things to waypointadvice.com and it hits somewhere, but
It's understandable because if you just search for an email to send it to, like
Yeah.
that's the one we do for freelance pitches. So, you know, if it ends up
Gaming.
there, I get it and Rob gets that email. So
Okay.
it won't get lost, but it is easier if you send it to gamingadvice.com.
it also hits my email, but they get lost. They're in there somewhere. I should set up a filter. Shit.
Anyway, back to the outro. Oh, I
That's
set up
what
the
I
best
do.
filters the other day. But anyway, that's not.
Wait, is this the beginning of the podcast or the end of the podcast?
Both?
Great.
Now we're
You'll
back
figure-
at the end.
Oh, are we?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
We have to
Good
say
luck
we have to say thanks.
So, look, did all this sound good?
no.
Then you want more Waypoint, and you can go to
Hold on.
waypointplus.com.
I'm gonna be clear.
subscribe.
It didn't sound good before I edited it. I'm sure it sounds great now.
Not only do you get access to our premium feed, but you're also helping support Waypoint, especially Waypoint streams. Natalie and I are just carving through Inscription. We're in like the third iteration of Inscription.
They're 200% done with Inscription.
We're crushing it. And I think there's a strong chance that we're going to see the end of the last part of the game by the time we actually have to talk about it on a podcast. Fingers crossed. Next stream, I'm confident we'll do it. Anyway, once again, that's waypointplus.com. Our theme music is by Bowen. The track is Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Learn more at waypoint.zone/BOEN. You can find me on Twitter at Rob Zachney. Patrick Rimby will find you.
At Patrick Klopik.
Cado.
At @a_Cado_appears.
And you can follow Waypoint on Twitter at Waypoint, on Facebook and YouTube at Waypoint Advice. That's us calling it a week. We will talk to you again on Monday. Until then, fuck capitalism. Go home. Oh yeah, we're watching the Animatrix, and if you have questions about the Animatrix, you should send some in.
Okay.
We're not going to answer questions about the Animatrix. We never do.
Nope.
No, we're just going to watch the Animatrix.
Fucking robot.
Send those questions anyways. Just make it real confusing for everyone.